Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Gnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Svapadantikam. Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yutapatakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrijatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Sri Visakanvitamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधो दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांता राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमां विष्णुपदाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यादेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् शृण्वतं स्वकथा कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनारित्यन्दस्तो भद्राणि विदुनोति सुहृत्सतां नष्टप्रायेष्व भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भागवति उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी. Before reciting the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayana, unto Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Śrīla Vyasadeva, the author. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed, and loving service unto the person of Godhead who is praised with transcendental songs is established as an irrevocable fact. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai. So today we continue chapter 28, text number 2, Kapila's instruction on devotional service. Swadharmacharanam shaktya vidharmacha nivartanam daivallabdena santosha atma vicharanarchanam. Swadharma acharanam, executing one's prescribed duties. Shaktya, to the best one's ability. Vidharmats, unauthorized duties. Cha and nivartanam, avoiding. Daivat, by the grace of the Lord. Labdena, with what is achieved. Santosha, satisfied. Atmavit, of the self-realized soul. Charana, the feet. Archanam, worshipping. Translation. One should execute his prescribed duties to the best of his ability and avoid performing duties which are not allotted to him. One should be satisfied with as much gain as he achieves by the grace of the Lord, and one should worship the lotus feet of a spiritual master. Purport. In this verse, there are many important words which could be very elaborately explained but we shall briefly discuss the important aspects of each. The final statement is Atmavichara Charana Charanam. Charanarchanam. Atmavi means a self-realized soul or bona fide spiritual master. Unless one is self-realized and knows what his relationship with the super soul is, he cannot be a bona fide spiritual master. Here it is recommended that one should seek out a bona fide spiritual master and archanam, surrender unto him. For by inquiring from and worshipping him, one can learn spiritual activities. The first recommendation is Swadharma Charanam. As long as we have this material body, there are various duties prescribed for us. Such duties are divided by a system of 4 social orders: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. These particular duties are mentioned in the Shastras, and particularly in Bhagavad Gita. Swadharma Charanam means that one must discharge the prescribed duties of his particular division of society faithfully and to best of one's ability. One should not accept another's duty. If one is born in a particular society or community, he should perform the prescribed duties for that particular division. If, however, one is fortunate enough to transcend the designation of birth in a particular society or community by being elevated to the standard of spiritual identity, then his Svadharma or duty is solely that of serving the Supreme Person of Godhead. The actual duty of one who is advanced in Krishna consciousness is to serve the Lord. As long as one remains in the bodily concept of life, he may act according to the duties of social convention. But if one is elevated to the spiritual platform, he must simply serve the Supreme Lord. That is the real execution of Swadharma. Text number 3. Gramya dharma nivrittischa moksha dharma ratishtata mita medyadanam shashvad vivikta kshema sevanam. Gramya, conventional; dharma, religious practice; nivritti, ceasing; cha, and; moksha, for salvation; dharma, religious practice; rati, being attracted to; tata, in that way; mita, little; medya, pure; adanam, eating; shasvat, always; vivikta, secluded; kshema, peaceful; sevanam, dwelling. Translation: one should cease performing conventional religious practices and should be attracted to those which lead to salvation. One should eat very frugally and should always remain secluded so that he can achieve the highest perfection of life. What is this conventional? Purport. Oh, Hare Krishna, Praveen, Prabhu, Tandar, Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dhanvantarana, Jai Sri Prabhupada.
Thank you for joining.
Thank you for starting the session so early, bro. But I am unable to read the session because I am with Anuttam Prabhu right now, and we are going for a book distribution. So
yes, Prabhu.
Since I have got a few minutes to join, so I have joined and wanted to wish you all.
Thank you so much for giving your association and really nice
No
that you
problem, bro. Thanks for since the Q&A session with His Grace Sundargopal Prabhu has cancelled, I think you have started this early today.
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, and I have to go also out in 2 hours. So I decided to do it
Okay.
early so we don't have to skip
Not a
it.
problem. That's really a good idea, Prabhu. Yeah, please continue. Please continue. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare
Jai
Krishna.
Shri.
Jai Shri.
It is recommended herein that religious practice for economic development or the satisfaction of sense desires should be avoided. Religious practices should be executed only to gain freedom from the clutches of material nature. It is stated in the beginning of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam that the topmost religious practice is that by which one can attain to the transcendental devotional service of the Lord, without reason or cause. Such religious practice is never hampered by any impediments, and by its performance one actually becomes satisfied. Here this is recommended as moksha dharma, religious practice for salvation or transcendence of the clutches of material contamination. Generally, people execute religious practices for economic development or for sense gratification, but that is not recommended for one who wants to advance in yoga. The next important praise is mitamedyadanam, which means that one should eat very frugally. It is recommended in the Vedic literature that a yogi eat only half what he desires according to his hunger. If one is so hungry that he could devour 1 pound of foodstuffs, then instead of eating 1 pound, he should consume only half a pound and supplement this with 4 ounces of water. 1/4 of the stomach should be left empty for passage of air in the stomach. If one eats in this manner, he will avoid indigestion and disease. The yogi should eat in this way, as recommended in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and all other standard scriptures. The yogi should live in a secluded place where his yoga practice will not be disturbed. Text number 4. Ahimsa satyamasteyam yavadartha parigraha brahmacharyam tapah saucham svadhyaya purusharchanam. Ahimsa, non-violence. Satyam, truthfulness. Asteyam, refraining from theft. Yavadartha, as much as necessary. Parigraha, possessing. Brahmacharyam, celibacy. Tapaha, austerity. Saucham, cleanliness. Svadhyaya, study of the Vedas. Purusha Archanam, worship of the Supreme Person of Godhead. Translation: one should practice non-violence and truthfulness, should avoid thieving, and be satisfied with possessing as much as he needs for his maintenance. He should abstain from sex life, perform austerity, be clean, study the Vedas, and worship the supreme form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport: the word Purusharchanam in this verse means worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead, especially the form of Lord Krishna. In Bhagavad Gita, it is confirmed by Arjuna that Krishna is the original Purusha, or personality of Godhead. Purusham Shashvatam. Therefore, in yoga practice, one must not only concentrate his mind on the person of Krishna, but must also worship the form of deity, or Krishna, daily. A brahmachari practices celibacy, controlling his sex life. One cannot enjoy unrestricted sex life and practice yoga. This is rascaldom. So-called yogis advertise that one can go on enjoying as one likes and simultaneously become a yogi, but this is totally unauthorized. It is very clearly explained here that one must observe celibacy. Brahmacharyam means that one leads his life simply in relationship with the Brahman or in full Krishna consciousness. Those who are too addicted to sex life cannot observe the regulations which will lead them to Krishna consciousness. Sex life should be restricted to persons who are married. A person whose sex life is restricted in marriage is called a brahmachari. The word asteyam is also very important for a yogi. Asteyam means to refrain from theft. In the broader sense, Everyone who accumulates more than he needs is a thief. According to spiritual communism, one cannot possess more than he needs for his personal maintenance. That is the law of nature. Anyone who accumulates more money or more possessions than he needs is called a thief, and one who simply accumulates wealth without spending for sacrifice or for worship of the Supreme Person of Godhead is a great thief. There is thief and a great thief. Svadhyaya means reading the authorized Vedic scriptures. Even if one is not Krishna conscious and is practicing the yoga system, he must read standard Vedic literatures in order to understand. Performance of yoga alone is not sufficient. Narottam Das Thakur, a great devotee and acharya in the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, says that all spiritual activities should be understood from three sources, namely saintly persons, standard scriptures, and the spiritual master. These three guides are very important for progress in spiritual life. The spiritual master prescribes standard literature for the prosecution of the yoga of devotional service, and he himself speaks only from scriptural reference. Therefore, reading standard scriptures is necessary for executing yoga. Practicing yoga without reading the standard literatures is simply a waste of time. Text number 5. Maunam sadashana jaya स्थैर्यं प्राणाजयाशनैः प्रत्याहारश्चन्द्रियाणां विषयान् मनसा हृदि. Maunam, silence. Sat, good. Asana, yogic postures. Jaya, controlling. Stairyam, steadiness. Pranajaya, controlling the vital air. Shanai, gradually. Pratyahara, withdrawal. Cha, and. Indriyanam, of the senses. Vishayat, from the sense objects. Manasa, with the mind. Hridhi, on the heart. Translation. One must observe silence. Acquire steadiness by practicing different yogic postures. Control the breathing of the vital air. Withdraw the senses from sense objects and thus concentrate the mind on the heart. Purport. The yogic practices in general and Hatha Yoga in particular are not ends in themselves. They are means to end of attaining steadiness. The yogic practices in general and the Hatha Yoga in particular are not ends in themselves, they are means to the end of attaining steadiness. First, one must be able to sit properly, and then the mind and attention will become steady enough for practicing yoga. Gradually, one must control the circulation of vital air, and with such control, he will be able to withdraw the senses from sense objects. In the previous verse, it is stated that one must observe celibacy. The most important aspect of sense control is controlling sex life. That is called the brahmacharya. By practicing the different sitting postures and controlling the vital air, one can control and restrain the senses from unrestricted sense enjoyment. Text number 6. Svadishñānam ekadeshe manasa pranadaranam vaikuntalila vidyanam samdanam tatatmana. Svadishñānam, within the vital air circles. Ekadeshe, in one spot. Manasa, with the mind. Prana, the vital air. Dharanam, fixing. Vaikunta, lila, the pastimes of the Supreme Person of Godhead. Abhidhyanam, concentration. Samadhanam, samadhi. Tata, thus. Atmana, of the mind. Translation. Fixing the vital air and the mind in one of the 6 circles of vital air circulation within the body, thus concentrating one's mind on the transcendental pastime of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is called samadhi or samadhana of the mind. Purport. There are 6 circles of vital air circulation within the body. The first circle is within the belly. The second circle is in the area of the heart. The third is in the area of the lungs. The fourth is on the palate. The fifth is between the eyebrows. And the highest, the sixth circle, is above the brain. Wow. One has to fix his mind and the circulation of the vital air and thus think of the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord. It is never mentioned that one should concentrate on the impersonal or void. It is clearly stated Vaikuntha Lila. Lila means pastimes, and as the absolute truth, the person of Godhead as transcendental activities, where is the scope for thinking of these pastimes? It is through the process of devotional service, chanting, and hearing of the pastimes of the Supreme Person of Godhead that one can achieve this concentration. As described in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, the Lord appears and disappears according to his relationship with different devotees. The Vedic literatures contain many narrations of the Lord's pastimes, including the Battle of Kurukshetra, and historical facts relating to the life and precepts of devotees like Prahlad Maharaj, Dhruva Maharaj, and Ambarish Maharaj. One need only concentrate his mind on one such narration and become always absorbed in its thought. Then he will be in samadhi. Samadhi is not an artificial bodily state, it is the state achieved when the mind is virtually absorbed in thoughts of the Supreme Person of Godhead. Text number 7. Etaranyayश्च पतिभिर् मनोदुष्टम् असत्पथम् बुद्ध्या युञ्जी च शनकैर् चिता प्राणो atandrita. Etai by these, anyai by other, cha and patibi processes, mana the mind, dushtam contaminated, asat patam on the path of material enjoyment, buddhya by the intelligence, yunjita one must control, shanakai gradually, jita prana the life air being fixed, he indeed, atandrita alert. Translation. By these processes or any other true process, one must control the contaminated, unbridled mind which is always attracted by material enjoyment and thus fix himself in thought of the Supreme Person of Godhead. Purport. Etairanyascha, the general yoga process entails observing the rules and regulations, practicing the different sitting postures, concentrating the mind on the vital circulation of the air, and then thinking of the Supreme Person of Godhead in his Vaikuntha pastimes. This is the general process of yoga. The same concentration can be achieved by other recommended processes, and therefore Anyaischa, other methods, also can be applied. The essential point is that the mind which is contaminated by the material attraction has to be bridled and concentrated on the Supreme Person of Godhead. It cannot be fixed on something void or impersonal. For this reason, so-called yoga practices or voidism and impersonalism are not recommended in any standard yoga shastra. The real yogi is the devotee because his mind is always concentrated on the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Therefore, Krishna consciousness is the topmost yoga system. Text number 8. Shuchau deshe pratistapya vijita shana asanam tasmin svasti samashina rijukaya samabhyaset. Shuchau deshe, in a sanctified place. Pratishtapya, after placing. Vijita asana, controlling the sitting postures. Asanam, a seat. Tasmin, In that place, Swasti Samasina, sitting in uneasy posture, Rujukaya, keeping the body erect, Samabhyaset, one should practice. Translation. After controlling one's mind and sitting postures, one should spread a seat in a secluded and sanctified place. Sit there in an easy posture, keeping the body erect, and practice breath control. Breath control. Purport. Sitting in an easy posture is called Svasti Samasina. It is recommended in the yoga scripture that one should put the soles of the feet between two thighs and ankles and sit straight. That posture will help one to concentrate his mind on the Supreme Person of Godhead. This very process is also recommended in Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter. It is further suggested that one sit in a secluded sanctified spot. The seat should consist of deerskin and kusha grass topped with cotton. Text number 9. Pranasya sodane sodayenmargam pura kumbhakara chakaye pratikulena va chittam yatha stiram achanchalam. Pranasya of vital air. Shobayet, one should clear. Margam, the passage. Pura kumbhakare chakai, by inhaling, retaining, and exhaling. Pratikulyena, by reversing. Va, or chittam, the mind. Yatha, so that. Stiram, steady. Achanchalam, free from disturbances. Translation. The yogi should clear the passage of vital air by breathing in the following manner. First, he should inhale very deeply, then hold the breath in, and finally exhale. Or reversing the process, the yogi can first exhale, then hold the breath outside, and finally inhale. This is done so that the mind may become steady and free from external disturbances. Purport. These breathing exercises are performed to control the mind and fix it on the Supreme Person of Godhead. Savai Manah Krishna Padara Vindayo. The devotee Ambarish Maharaj fixed his mind on the lotus feet of Krishna 24 hours a day. The process of Krishna consciousness is to chant Hare Krishna and to hear the sound attentively so that the mind is fixed upon the transcendental vibration of Krishna's name, which is non-different from Krishna, the personality. The real purpose of controlling the mind by the prescribed method of clearing the passage of the life air is achieved immediately if one fixes his mind directly on the lotus feet of Krishna. The Hatha Yoga system or breathing system is especially recommended for those who are very absorbed in the concept of bodily existence. But one who can perform the simple process of chanting Hare Krishna can fix the mind more easily. The 3 different activities are recommended for clearing the passage of breath: Puraka, Kumbhaka, and Rechaka. Inhaling the breath is called Puraka. Sustaining it within is called Kumbhaka, and finally exhaling it is called Rechaka. These recommended processes can also be performed in the reverse order. After exhaling, one can keep the air outside for some time and then inhale. The nerves through which inhalation and exhalation are conducted are technically called Ida and Pingala. The ultimate purpose of clearing the Ida and Pingala passages is to divert the mind from material enjoyment. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, one's mind is his enemy, and one's mind is also his friend. Its position varies according to the different dealings of the living entity. If we divert our mind to thoughts of material enjoyment, then our mind becomes an enemy, and if we concentrate our mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, then our mind is a friend. By the yoga system of Puraka, Kumbhaka, and Rechaka, or by directly fixing the mind on the sound vibration of Krishna or on the form of Krishna, the same purpose is achieved. In Bhagavad Gita 8.8, it is said that one must practice the breathing exercise, Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena. By virtue of this process of control, the mind cannot wander to external thoughts. Chetasa Nanyagamina. Thus one can fix his mind constantly on the Supreme Person of Godhead and can attain Yati, him. Practicing yoga system of exercise and breath control is very difficult for a person of this age, and therefore Lord Chaitanya recommended Kirtaniya Sadahari. One should always chant the holy name of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, because Krishna is the most suitable name of the Supreme Person of Godhead. The name Krishna and the Supreme Person of Godhead are non-different, and the Supreme Person Krishna are non-different. Therefore, if one concentrates his mind on hearing and chanting Hare Krishna, the same result is achieved. Hare Krishna, Dheeraj Prabhu Dandarpanam, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, Dandatam, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Do you want to read, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu, I can read.
Okay, thank you so much.
Canto 3, chapter 28, text number 10. Manochirat syad virajam jitaswasya yogina vayu agnibhyam yatha loham dhamatam tyajati vaimalam. Synonyms: Mana, the mind; Achirat, soon; Syat, can be; Virajam, freed from disturbances; Jita Swasya, whose breathing is controlled; Yogina, of the yogi; Vayu Agnibhyam, by air and fire; Yatha, just as; Lobham, gold; Dhamatam, fanned; Tyajati, becomes freed from; Vai, certainly; Malam, impurity. Translation: the yogis who practice such breathing exercises are very soon freed from all mental disturbances, just as gold, when put into fire and fanned with air, becomes free from all impurities. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This process of purifying the mind is also recommended by Lord Chaitanya. He says that one should chant Hare Krishna. He says further, Param Vijayate, all glories to Sri Krishna Sankirtan. All glories are given to the chanting of holy name of Krishna, because as soon as one begins this process of chanting, the mind becomes purified. Cheto Darpana Marjanam. By chanting the holy name of Krishna, one is cleansed of the dirt that accumulates in the mind. One can purify the mind either by breathing process or by the chanting process. Just as one can purify gold by putting it in a fire and fanning it with a bellows. Text 11. प्राणायामैर्दहेद्दोषान् धारणाभिश्च किल्बिषान् प्रत्याहारेण संसर्गान् ध्यानेनाशीश्वरान् गुणान्. Synonyms: Pranayamai, by practice of pranayam, the hate, one can eradicate doshan, the contamination; dharanabhi, by concentrating the mind; cha, and kilbhishan, sinful activities; pratyaharena, by restraining the senses; samsargan, material association; dhyayena, by meditating; anishwaran gunan, the modes of material nature. Translation: by practicing the process of pranayam, one can eradicate the contamination of his psychophysical condition, and by concentrating the mind, one can become free from all sinful activities. By restraining the senses, one can free himself from material association, and by meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can become free from the three modes of material attachment. Purport: according to Ayurvedic medical science, the three items Kapha, Pitta, and Vayu, Kapha, Vata, Pitta, phlegm, bile, and air, maintain the psychophysical condition of the body. Modern medical science does not accept this psychological analysis as valid, but the ancient Ayurvedic process of treatment is based upon these items. Ayurvedic treatment concerns itself with the cause of these three elements. which are mentioned in many places in Bhagavatam as the basic conditions of the body. Here it is recommended that by practicing the breathing process of pranayam, one can be released from contamination created by principal psychological elements. By concentrating the mind, one can become free from the sinful activities, and by withdrawing the senses, one can free himself from material association. Ultimately, one has to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead in order to be elevated to the transcendental position where he is no longer affected by the three modes of material nature. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that one who engages himself in unalloyed devotional service at once becomes transcendental to the three modes of material nature and immediately realizes his identification with Brahman. Sagunan samatitaitan brahma bhuyaya kalpate. For every atom in the yoga system, there is a parallel activity in Bhakti Yoga. But the practice of Bhakti Yoga is easier for this age. What was introduced by Lord Chaitanya is not a new interpretation. Bhakti Yoga is a feasible process that begins with chanting and hearing. Bhakti Yoga and other yogas have as their ultimate goal the same personality of Godhead, but one is practical and the other is difficult. One has to purify his psychological condition by concentration and by restraint of the senses. Then he can fix his mind upon Supreme Personality of Godhead, that is called Samadhi. Text 12. Yada mana swam virajam yogena su shamahitam kastham bhagavato dhyayet swanasa gravalokanam. Synonyms: Yada, when; Mana, the mind; Swam, on; Virajam, purified; Yogena, by yoga practice; Su, Samahitam, controlled; Kashtham, the plenary expansion; Bhagavata, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead; Dhyayet, one should meditate upon; Swanasha Agra, the tip of one's nose; Avalokan, looking at. Yeah. Translation: when the mind is perfectly purified by this practice of yoga, then one should concentrate on the tip of the nose with half closed eyes and see the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah. So actually, I have heard from Prabhupada, I guess. So his posture is required while chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, that we should straight erect and our eyes should be half closed, and our focus should be on the tip of the nose. So that is the ultimate ideal posture for meditation.
Yes,
Perfect.
Prabhu.
Yeah. But the main important thing is chanting and hearing. Whatever we chant, that should be clear and precise, and we should hear that. Yeah, that is more important part. Purport: it is clearly mentioned here that one has to meditate upon the expansion of Vishnu. The word Kashtham refers to Paramatma, the expansion of Vishnu. Bhagavata refers to Lord Vishnu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Godhead is Krishna. From him comes the first expansion, Baladev, and from Baladev comes Sankarshan, Aniruddha, and many other forms, followed by the Purusha avatars. As mentioned in the previous verses, Purusharchanam. This Purusha is represented as the Paramatma or Super Soul. A description of the Super Soul upon whom one must meditate will be given in the following verses. In this verse, it is clearly stated that one must meditate by fixing the vision on the tip of nose and concentrating one's mind on the Kala or plenary expansion of Vishnu. Text 13. प्रसन्नवदनाभोजं पद्मगर्भारुणेक्षणं नीलोत्पलदयक्षामं शङ्खचक्रगदाधरम्. Synonyms: Prasanna, cheerful; Vadana, countenance; Ambhojam, lotus-like; Padma-garbha, the interior of a lotus; Arunarudi, Ikshanam, with eyes; Nilotpala, blue lotus; Dala, petals; Shamam, swarthy; Shankhya, conch; chakra, discus, gada, club, dharam, bearing. Translation: the Supreme Personality of Godhead has a cheerful lotus-like countenance with ruddy eyes like the interior of a lotus and a swarthy body like the petal of a blue lotus. He bears a conch, discus, and a mace in three of his hands. Purport: it is definitely recommended herein that one concentrate his mind upon the form of Vishnu. There are 12 different forms of Vishnu, which are described in the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. One cannot concentrate his mind on anything void or impersonal. The mind should be fixed on the personal form of the Lord, whose attitude is cheerful, as described in this verse. Bhagavad Gita states that meditation on the impersonal or void features is very troublesome to the meditator. Those who are attached to the impersonal or void features of meditation have to undergo a different process because we are not accustomed to concentrating our mind on anything impersonal. Actually, such concentration is not even possible. Bhagavad Gita also confirms that one should concentrate his mind on the personality of Godhead. The color of the personality of Godhead Krishna is described here as Nilotpaladala, meaning that it is like that of a lotus flower with petals tinted blue and white. People always ask why Krishna is blue. The color of the Lord has not been imagined by an artist. It is described in authoritative scriptures. In the Brahma Samhita also the color of Krishna's body is compared to that of a bluish cloud. The color of the Lord is not poetical imagination. There are authoritative descriptions in the Brahma Samhita, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and many of the Puranas of the Lord's body, his weapon, and all other paraphernalia. The Lord's appearance is described here as Padma Garbha Runekshanam. His eyes resemble the inside of a lotus flower, and his four hands he holds the four symbols: conch shell, discus, mace, and lotus. Shankha Chakra Gada Padma. Text 14. लक्षत्पङ्कजकिञ्जल्कपितकौशेयवाससं श्रीवत्सवक्षसं भ्राजत् कौस्तुभामुक्तकण्ठरम्. Synonyms: lasat, shining, pankaja of a lotus, kinjalka, filaments, pita, yellow, kausheya, silk cloth, vasasam, whose garment, Srivatsa, bearing the mark of Srivatsa, vakshasham, breast, Bhrajat, brilliant, Kaustubha gem, Amukta, put on, Kandharam, his neck. Translation: his loins are covered by a shining cloth, yellowish like the filaments of a lotus. On his breast he bear the mark of Srivatsa, a curl of white hair. The brilliant Kaustubha gem suspended from his neck. Purport: the exact color of the garment of the Supreme Lord is described as saffron yellow, just like the pollen of a lotus flower. The Kaustubha gem hanging on his chest is also described. His neck is beautifully decorated with jewels and pearls. The Lord is full in six opulences, one of which is wealth. He is very richly dressed with valuable jewels, which are not visible within this material world. Text 15. मत्तद्विरेफकलया परितं वनमालया पराध्यहारवलया किरीटाङ्गदनूपुरम्. Please go down, Prabhu. Matta, intoxicated. Dvi, repa, with peace. Kalaya, humming. Paritam, garlanded. Vanamalaya, with a garland of forest flowers. Paradhya, priceless. Hara, pearl necklace. Valaya, bracelets. Kirita, a crown. Angada, armlets. Nupuram, anklets. Translation: he also wear around his neck a garland of attractive swollen flowers, and a swarm of bees, intoxicated by its delicious fragrance, hum about the garland. He is further superbly adorned with a pearl necklace, a crown, and a pair of armlets, bracelets, and anklets. So the flower, I think the garland of it is Kadamba flower, right? Can you search its translation? The meaning of swollen swollen flowers. What is mean? Is it Kadamba flowers? Can you search the entire swollen flowers? What it means on Google maybe? SY. Because I heard that Krishna wears the garland made up of Kadamba flowers.
Oh, it means forest flowers, Prabhu.
Okay, okay. Yeah, forest flower. Actually. Okay. But from this description, it appears that the flower garland of Supreme Personality of Godhead is fresh. Actually, in Vaikuntha or the spiritual sky, there is nothing but freshness. Even the flowers picked from the trees and plants remain fresh. For everything in the spiritual sky retains its originality and does not fade. The fragrance of the flowers picked from the trees and made into garlands does not fade because both the trees and the flowers are spiritual. When the flower is taken from the tree, it remains the same. It does not lose its aroma. The bees are equally attracted to the flowers whether they are on the garland or on the trees. The significance of spirituality is that everything is eternal and inexhaustible. Everything taken from everything remains everything, or has been stated in the spiritual world 1 minus 1 equals 1 and 1 plus 1 equals 1. Yeah. Yeah, in Ishopanishad, so that verse is there. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. So its spiritual world is like infinite. Even we take infinity out of it, it still remains infinite. The bees hum around the fresh flowers, and their sweet sound is enjoyed by the Lord. The Lord's spangles, necklace, crown, and anklets are all bedecked with invaluable jewels. Since the jewels and pearls are spiritual, there is no material calculation of their value. Text 16. Vanya Pushpani in Sanskrit. Is that? Includes Sugandha, Champaka, and various forests as one of an deities. Okay. Okay. Text 16. Kanchi Gunolashachkronim Hridayambhojavistaram Darshaniyatmanam Shantam Mano Nayanavardhanam. Synonyms: Kanchi, girdle; Guna, quality; Ullasat, brilliant; Shronim, his loins and hips; Hridaya, heart; Ambhoja, lotus; Vistaram, whose seat; Darshaniya, Tanam, most charming to look at; Shantam, serene; Mana, mind, hearts; Nayana, eyes; Vardhanam, gladdening. Translation: His loins and hips encircled by a girdle. He stands on the lotus of his devotee's heart. He is most charming to look at, and his serene aspects gladdens the eyes and souls of the devotees who behold him. Purport: The word Darshaniyatamam, which is used in this verse, means that the Lord is so beautiful that the devotee yogi does not wish to see anything else. His desire to see beautiful objects is comparatively satisfied by the sight of the Lord. In the material world, we want to see beauty, but the desire is never satisfied. All the propensities that we feel in the material world are never satisfied because of material contamination. Not not all of the propensities we feel in the material world are satisfied, but when our desire to see, hear, touch, etc. are total for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are on the level of the topmost perfection. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his eternal form is so beautiful and pleasing to the heart of the devotee, he does not attract the impersonalists who want to meditate on his impersonal aspect. This is simply fruitless labor. The actual yogis with half-closed eyes fixed on the form of Supreme Personality of Godhead, not upon anything void or impersonal. So I think Pranjal Prabhu asked that there is no restriction on this age of on chanting holy name. He says, yes, it is true. It is said that खाइते शुइते जथा तथा नाम लो देश काल नियम नहीं सर्व सिद्ध होए. Whether sleeping, eating, or whether doing anything, any activity, we can chant the holy name of God. There is no hard and fast rule in chanting. So it is also true. But also still, while sleeping, if we chant, we don't get any, it's not an offense to chant while sleeping, but it's better to be awake in proper posture and be chant mindfully. So it is like that. Yeah, posture, it should be like that only. This is the ideal posture, right? We should sit erect. So the ideal case is that, but there is no restriction. If we are just sleeping, then better to chant while sleeping. There is no restriction. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said this. The ideal. Text 17. अपिच दर्शनं शश्वत् सर्वलोकनमस्कृतं शान्तं व्यवसिकैशोरे भृत्यानुग्रहकातरम्. Synonyms. Apicha darshanam, very beautiful to see. Shashwat, eternal. Sarvaloka, by all the inhabitants of every planet. Nama kritam, worshipable. Shantam, situated. Vayasi, in youth. Kaishori, in boyhood. Bhritya, upon his devotees. Anugraha, to bestow blessings. Kataram, eager. Translation. The Lord is eternally very beautiful, and he is worshipable by all the inhabitants of every planet. He is ever youthful and always eager to bestow his blessing upon his devotee. Purport. The word Sarvaloka Namaskritam means that he is worshipable by everyone on every planet. There are innumerable planets in the material world and innumerable planets in the spiritual world as well. On each planet, there are innumerable inhabitants who worship the Lord, for the Lord is worshipable by all the impersonalists. The Supreme Lord is very beautiful. The word Sashwat is significant. It is not that he appears beautiful to the devotees, but is but is ultimately impersonal. Shashwat means ever existing. That beauty is not temporary, it is ever existing. He is always youthful. In the Brahma Samhita 533, it is also stated, Advaitamachyutamanadimanantarupam Adyam Purana Purusham Navayovanamscha. The original person is one without a second, yet he is never appears old. He always appears as ever fresh as a blooming youth. The Lord's facial expression always indicates that he is ready to show favor and benediction to the devotees. For the non-devotees, however, he is silent. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, although he acts equally to everyone, because he is Supreme Personality of Godhead, because all living entities are his sons, he is especially inclined to those who engage in devotional service. The same fact is confirmed here. He is always anxious to show favor to the devotees, just as the devotees are always eager to render service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the Lord is always very eager to bestow benediction upon the pure devotees. Text 18. Okay, last verse I've read. कीर्तन्यतीर्थयशसं पुण्यश्लोकयशस्करं ध्यायेद्देवं समग्राङ्गं यावन्न च्यव्यते मनः. Synonyms: Kirtanya, worth singing; Tirtha Yashasham, the glories of the Lord; Punya Shloka, of the devotees; Yasha Karam, enhancing the glory; Dhyayet, one should meditate; Devam, upon the Lord; Samagra Angam, all the limbs; Yavat, as much as; Na, not; Chavyate, deviates; Mana, the mind. Translation: the glory of the Lord is always worth singing, for his glories enhance the glories of his devotees. One should therefore meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead and upon his devotees. One should meditate on the eternal form of the Lord until the mind becomes fixed. Purport: one has to fix his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead constantly. When one is accustomed to thinking of one of the innumerable forms of the Lord, Krishna, Vishnu, Rama, Narayan, etc., he has reached the perfection of yoga. This is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. A person who has developed a pure love for the God and whose eyes are smeared with the ointment of transcendental loving exchange always sees within his heart the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The devotees especially see the Lord in the beautiful blackish form of Sham Sundara. That is the perfection of yoga. This yoga system should be continued until the mind does not vacillate for a moment. Om Tad Vishnu Padamam Param Sada Pashyanti Suryaha. Little up. The form of Vishnu is the highest individuality and is always visible to sages and saintly persons. The same purpose is served when a devotee worships the form of the Lord in the temple. There is no difference between devotional service in the temple and meditation on the form of the Lord, since the form of the Lord is the same whether he appears within the mind or in some constant concrete element. There are 8 kinds of forms recommended for the devotee to see. The forms may be made out of sand, clay, wood, or stone. They may be contemplated within the mind or made of jewel, metal, or painted colors, but all the forms are of the same value. It is not that one who meditates on the form within the mind sees differently from one who worships the form in the temple. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is absolute, and there is therefore no difference between the two. The impersonalists who desire to disregard the eternal form of the Lord imagine some round figure. They especially prefer the Omkar, which also has form. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that Omkar is the later form of the Lord. Similarly, there are statues form and painting forms of the Lord. Another significant word in this verse is Punya Shloka Yashashkaram. The devotee is called Punya Shloka. As one becomes purified by chanting the holy name of the Lord, so one can become purified simply by chanting the name of a holy devotee. Oh. The pure devotee of the Lord and the Lord himself are non-different. It is sometimes feasible to chant the name of a holy devotee. Wow, very important paragraph. This is a very sanctified process. Lord Chaitanya was once chanting the holy name of the gopis. He was chanting Gopi, Gopi, Gopi. When his students criticized him, why are you chanting the names of the gopis? Why not Krishna? Lord Chaitanya was irritated by the criticism. And so there was some misunderstanding between him and his students. He wanted to chastise them for desiring to instruct him on the transcendental process of chanting. The beauty of the Lord is that the devotees who are connected with his activities are also glorified. Arjuna, Prahlad, Janak Maharaj, Bali Maharaj, and many other devotees were not even in the renounced order of life, but were householders. Some of them, such as Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj, were born of demoniac families. Prahlad Maharaj's father was a demon and Bali Maharaj was the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. But still they have become famous because of their association with the Lord. Anyone who is eternally associated with the Lord is glorified with the Lord. The conclusion is that a perfect yogi should always be accustomed to seeing the form of the Lord, and unless the mind is fixed in that way, he should continue practicing yoga. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna. If anybody else wants to read, wants to continue. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Haribol, thank you so much, Prabhu. Okay, read one more, then we'll stop at 19. Stitam vrajantam ashinam shayanam va guhayasam prekshaniyehitam dhyayech chuddha bhavena chetasa. Word. Stitam, standing. Vrajantam, moving. Asinam, sitting. Shayanam, lying down. Va, or Guha asayam, the Lord dwelling in the heart. Prekshaniya, beautiful. Ihitam, pastimes. Dhyayet, he should visualize. Shuddha bhavena, pure. Chetasa, by the mind. Translation. Thus, always merged in devotional service, the yogi visualizes the Lord standing, moving, lying down, or sitting with him. For the pastimes of the Supreme Lord are always beautiful and attractive. Purport. The process of meditating on the form of the Supreme Person of Godhead within oneself and the process of chanting the glories and pastimes of the Lord are the same. The only difference is that hearing and fixing the mind on the pastimes of the Lord is easier than visualizing the form of the Lord within one's heart, because as soon as one begins to think of the Lord, especially in this age, the mind becomes disturbed, and due to so much agitation, the process of seeing the Lord within the mind is interrupted. When there is sound vibrated praising the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, however, one is forced to hear. That hearing process enters into the mind and the practice of yoga is automatically performed. For example, even a child can hear and derive the benefit of meditating on the pastimes of the Lord simply by listening to the reading from the Bhagavatam that describes the Lord as he is going to the pasturing ground with his cows and friends. Hearing includes applying the mind. In this age of Kali Yuga, Lord Chaitanya has recommended that one should always engage in chanting and hearing Bhagavad Gita. The Lord also says that the Mahatmas or great souls always engage in the process of chanting the glories of the Lord, and just by hearing others derive the same benefit. Yoga necessitates meditation on the transcendental pastimes of the Lord, whether he is standing, moving, lying down, etc. Haribol. Okay, now we have read over an hour, so we can go to Sikshastakam prayers. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Cheto darpanamarjanam bhavamahadavagninirvapanam Shreyah karavachandrika vitaranam vidyavadu jivanam Anandam buddhivardhanam pratipadam purnamritasvadanam Sarvatma snapanam param vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam.
नाम्नामकारि बहुधा निज सर्वशक्तिस्तत्रापितानि अमिता स्मरणेन कालः एतादृशी तव कृपा भगवन् ममापि दुर्दैवमित्रिशमिहा जनिनानुराग
Trinadapi sunichena tarorapi sahishnuna manina manadena kirtaniya sada hari.
न धनं न जनं न सुन्दरीं कवितां वा जगदीशकामये मम जन्मनि जन्मनीश्वरे भवतात् भक्तिरहेतुकी त्वयि
ऐनन्दतनुज किङ्करं पतितं मां विषमे भवाम्बुधौ कृपया तव पादपङ्कजस्थितधूले सदृशं विचिन्तय.
नयनं गलदश्रुधारया वदनं गद्गदहृदया गिरा पुलकैर्निचितं वपुकदा तव नाम गृहणे भविष्यति
युगायितं निमेषेण चक्षुषा प्राविर्ष्यायितं शून्यायितं जगत्सर्वं गोविन्दविरहेण मे.
अश्लेष्य वा पादरतान् नष्टु माम् अदर्शनामर्महतां करोतु वा यथा तथा वा विदधातु लम्पटो मत्प्राणनाथस्तु स एव नापरः.
Haribo, glory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all that has accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. The Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and it enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious.
O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names, you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness, you enable us to easily approach you by chanting your holy names. But I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them.
One should chant the holy name of the
Sir,
Lord. Oh, Hare Krishna, Shubham Prabhu, Dandar Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada. Yes, Prabhu, please read.
one should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than the straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly.
Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful woman, nor do I want any number of followers, only one you cause this devotional service, birth after birth.
O son
O
of
son
Maharaj
of
Nanda Krishna.
Maharaj, I am your eternal servitor. You somehow, yet somehow or other, I have fallen into the ocean of birth. I have fallen into the ocean of birth and death. Please pick me up from this ocean of death and place me as one of atoms of your lotus feet.
O my Lord, when will my eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name? When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on the end at the recitation of your name?
O Govinda, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from us like torrents of rain, and I'm feeling all vacant in the world in your absence.
I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and his remains so even if he handle me roughly in his embrace or makes me broken hearted by not being present before me. He is completely free to do anything and everything, for he is always my worshipful Lord unconditionally.
Haribol, Shri Siksastakam ki jai, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna
Prabhu,
Rushikesh Prabhu, Dandar Pranam, Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Prabhu, so reading session at the end.
Yes, Prabhu. We started 1 hour ago. Because today was no Q&A session and I need to go do some work in 1 hour, so we did it earlier today.
Actually, I was waiting for question and answer session, so
Yes,
I
Prabhu.
have
Same.
not joined. I have not seen the link in Telegram. Sorry, bro.
No problem, Prabhu. This was like expectation, like not normally happening. So
Yes. May I read this?
yes, Prabhu.
बहुजन्म करे यदि श्रवण कुत कीर्तन तब तो न पाए कृष्ण पदे प्रेम धन. One is infested with tenopons in the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra. Despite his endeavor to chant the holy name for many births, he will not get the love of Godhead. That is the advent core of this chanting. The offense against the chanting of the holy name are as follows. First offense is to blaspheme the devotee who have dedicated their lives for propagating the holy name of the Lord. Second offense is to consider the name of demigods like Shiva, Lord Brahma to be equal to or independent of the name of Lord Vishnu. Third offense to disobey the order of spiritual master. Yes, anyone else want to read? To blaspheme the Vedic literature in pursuance of the Vedic version. Fifth opens to consider the glories of the Hare Krishna to be imagination. Sixth opens to give some interpretation on the holy name of the Lord. Seventh opens to commit sinful activities on the strength of the holy name of the Lord. Eighth opens to consider the chanting of the Hare Krishna, one of the auspicious ritualistic activities offered in the Vedas as productive activities Karmakanda. Ninth opens to instruct a faithful person about the glories of the holy name. 10th opens to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy names and to maintain material attachment even after understanding so many instructions on the matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to quickly achieve the desired result Krishna Prem. I offer my respectful obeisance and to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are they can fulfill the desire of everyone, just like the desire and they are full of compassion for the fallen soul. Vangsha kalpatarabhyasya kripa sindhubhyev cha pattanam
पंचाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च
pavanebhyo
कृपा सिन्धुभ्यः च
namaः.
पतितानां
And Koti
पावनेभ्यो
Vaishnava
नमः
Vrind ki.
जय.
So Prabhu, could you quickly give some summary